with Dirk.
Welcome to another week of the Raptors Den, brought to you by Faulty Logics. This is Dan, your host, and also my co-host Peter.
What's up, guys?
Tell him what's up,
Mhm.
Peter.
So on the agenda we have here, wrapping up the NBA season, we're going to talk about the Raptors' last 4 games that they have as of today's date. In the last 3 games, that was the Boston-Cleveland sandwich that we had. The outcomes of that. Another big injury update and another All-Star in the league with Kyrie Irving. Another Hall of Famer, Dirk Nowitzki, went down for the rest of the season. A weird incident between the Golden State Warriors and the Kings happened with Vince Carter and McCaw. Talk about that a little bit. And Jimmy Butler's looking to return to the Timberwolves before the playoffs. And just going to wrap up what the playoff standings are looking like as of today, seeing what our predictions might be for first round matchups, who might come out of it, whatnot. But let's throw it back to Dan there to give you guys some more information about that giveaway we have going on.
All right, so we have a giveaway once we hit 100 followers or subscribers. Make sure in order for you to win, make sure you subscribe to us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a message leave a comment in the comments below any Raptors Den episode. Once we hit 100 subscribers, we're going to pick somebody from the comment section. Your profile has to be public so that we can see that you're following us. And then there's 2 opportunities for you to win a $15 Google Play gift card.
Mm-hmm. So some great stuff here, guys. We're so close to our target. Tell a friend to tell a friend and get some more subscriptions in here, guys. So let's just jump right back into it. With the Raptors, we are going into the home stretch here, getting geared up for playoffs. With the last 4 games, which is a very East Coast, well, all the teams are East Coast teams. 3 out of the last 4 are playoff-bound teams, which is going to be great for, 2 out of the 4 are playoff-bound teams, which is going to be great for our gauge on where we are sitting going into playoffs. So with those last 4 games, we have the Pacers coming to town. We have a game against Orlando, Detroit, and lastly, we have to end the season in Miami, which is going to be such a huge showing, purely because it's looking very possible to face the Heat in the first round. A little bit less every day now, but it is still a possibility. But with those 4 games, what would you count as a success going into playoffs? Winning 2, 3, all 4?
Based on the teams that we're looking at, we have to at least win 3 out of the 4. Best case scenario is win 4 out of 4. I think the only team that we're going to struggle with is potentially the 76ers because they are on a fucking roll right now.
True. Well, we don't play the Sixers for the last 4. It's the Pacers, Magic, Pistons, and the Heat.
Okay, then I feel like we have to win all 4 games then.
We would need to win all 4.
Yeah, we need to win all 4.
I think the only one that we could very well let slip would be maybe the game in Miami. Other reason is it's the absolute last game of the season. At that time, it could have some implications on standings,
right,
depending on how the last other 3 games go for, not really for the Raptors, more or less for the Heat, seeing if they're going to go from 6 to 8.
Right.
So I can see that one, if we want, we can let that slip purely because they are going to be a little bit more hungry to be in a certain position than 8th place, because then they would face us yet again. I would like to see them win all 4. I think we are capable to win all 4, especially the game against the Magic and the Pistons. I have no reason to be playing still, looking for development of their team and just trying to get better. I don't know. I liked what the Raptors were doing. The last 3 games were kind of an eye-opener about how ready we might not be for the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good way to turn to a new leaf with the last 4 games that we should win all 4.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's been a lot of talk about who's going to make it out of the East, and the Raptors, as usual, are not somebody or a team that people talk about. And it doesn't help that recently we haven't been playing that way either. We're losing against teams that are pretty much our competition. Like, if we can't beat them in the regular season, it's going to be tough to beat them in postseason.
Yes.
But one of the teams that are emerging as recent East favorite are the 76ers. Some people are saying that they do have the best chance to make it in the finals. What do you think?
Out of that, I can't disagree. They have been I can't say relatively healthy because out of them. They've been pretty banged up, but they have stayed relatively healthy. If you look at teams like the Cavaliers, who've had a lot of key pieces out throughout the whole season, the Boston Celtics, as you know, have been just ravished the whole season. The Raptors have been the healthiest Eastern Conference team the whole season, hands down. But with the way the 76ers are still being a weapon, with a few bodies in and out, but still finding a way, especially in the last 15, 20 games, turning it up, going into playoffs with very little experience.
12 straight.
It's very eye-opening, and I can't disagree with them saying that they are one of the favorites. You still can't say that they're favorites when there's LeBron James in the East, but other than a LeBron James captain team, they are a favorite to beat LeBron James within the last recent history. If you think about the last 7 straight finals that LeBron James has been to, coming out of the East, there was no other teams that really gave him pause of being like, holy cow, like, we actually have to be a little bit serious about this team. Out of the last 7 of those appearances, the 76ers are the only real team that are making him go, okay, guys, like, we have to get our stuff together. We can't just walk over these young guns anymore.
And to add to that, too, the 76ers have done a really good job in adding depth to their bench as well, too. I would argue that they probably maybe have the second, third deepest bench in the league as well. Like, their starting lineup may not be as impressive with having just the Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I would even say J.J. Redick isn't as performing as well as he did in the Clippers. Yeah. But, their bench is really good. They have Ilyasova. They have Marco Bellinelli, T.J. McConnell coming off the bench.
Robert Covington.
Dario Saric. Rocco is a starter, yeah. So, like, they have a pretty solid bench coming off. Like, Amir Johnson as well. Yep. Rashawn Holmes. So, yeah, it's a really solid bench. And with Embiid out, these players are actually picking up the slack. You can see them shine. Like, I picked up a whole bunch of them for my fantasy playoff, my final fantasy playoff push to win it all. So I'm hoping that they can carry me.
And hey, they did really well because you got them right in the middle of that 12-game winning streak that they have right now, which is NBA longest current winning streak right now, which is always good to have going into playoffs.
Right.
Having a big winning streak, not knowing what it feels like to lose, I always value that would be huge in the locker room, purely because no team in the NBA history has ever won 16 games in a row in the playoffs. So going with a winning streak, not knowing what it tastes like to lose, when you finally do get your first loss in the playoffs, you don't want that taste again.
Yeah.
So that would just ramp you guys right back up. So I think that's a benefit.
And the best thing about this, too, is that even though Joel Embiid went down, they're still winning without him, which is a big, big thing. And to my surprise, to be honest, is with Embiid out, I would have expected that Markelle Fultz would get more playing time, but he's still getting under 20 minutes a game.
Like that, I think it's just from design. Markelle Fultz, you don't. Speaking as a 76er organizational person, you don't know what you would get from Markelle Fultz with extended minutes. So I do see a logic of trying to hold it back into the playoffs to see when it matters the most. Hopefully it comes up at big times and then you can just let him go wild. Try not to get too much game film for other teams to strategize with going into playoffs. So that could be a reason why to hold him back a little bit. But sooner or later, they're going to have to let the training wheels come off just to see if he has the explosiveness that he had in NCAA. It's been a long time since he's played meaningful basketball with meaningful minutes.
The explosiveness is definitely there. Like, you see him driving to the basket a lot. He can handle. The one thing to point out is that he finally took his first three-pointer since coming back. Didn't look good.
Did it go in?
No, it didn't go in. And he the worst part about it is that after he took the shot, he did that arm swing, kind of like that shoulders, like, oh man, like, damn, like, please,
that didn't feel good. That didn't feel good look.
So I don't know if it's just all in his head or something, but
I think that's about where it is now. Like, coming up with injuries, you have to fix the physical aspect of it, but then you have to get the mental aspect of trusting that body part again to perform where it was before the injury happened. I think now it's physically fine. Now it's just getting the muscle memory back for him. I think that's all it is for him. Hopefully he can figure it out, especially going into playoffs with their team riding super high. Right now, they are sitting currently, as of today's date, in 4th place, tied for third with the Cavaliers. Cavaliers have the game split advantage over them, so that's why they're sitting third. But they very well could slip into third place and play a weaker team going in the first round.
I think they will, to be honest. I think they are going to pass the Cavs. But if they don't,
it's not worst case scenario.
It's not the worst case scenario, but the thing that I want to point out with the Cavs, though, is that if they go 4-1 in the next couple of games that they got, they pretty much tied their record that they had last year with Kyrie Irving. And to accomplish that without Kyrie Irving, with Kevin Love injured for quite a bit of a season, for Tristan Thompson being out for a whole lot of the season.
A mid-season team overhaul.
Yeah.
Like they lost, what was it, 7 out of their people at the start of the season?
6 or 7 of their guys got traded. They got 4 overhaul. New guys.
Yeah.
Man, like, just based on that, like, LeBron James, he's definitely in discussion for MVP candidate.
When has he not been? For the last, 15 years, he's been in discussion for MVP race. So that doesn't really surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me.
If he's not in the top 3 this year, though, oh man, that is some bullshit.
Fair, because he's been the only player on his team that performed day in, day out, and his numbers are better than what they were years past, especially even when he was top 3 in the MVP race vote. But it doesn't surprise me when the Cavaliers have sustained success, when they have LeBron James relatively healthy and they have a crew of people around him. So that, to me, is why I don't feel he is an MVP over the other couple people that are in the conversation right now, especially for this season. Yes, his numbers are better. Yes, his team is not as good, but it's not surprising. With the way that James Harden has been playing this year, it is very surprising. Especially thinking when he got Chris Paul, his numbers would go sit back down a little bit with Chris Paul running the show. No, his numbers went even higher, and then now the Rockets have an even better record than the Cavaliers and the Warriors, which is a humongous surprise to me. Is why I would vote as of right now for James Harden for MVP.
I think. I would actually agree with you. I think James Harden does deserve it.
And he came twice in the last 2 years, so like he has to get one soon. Like
to even push it further, I think it's gonna be unanimous.
I don't know about that. There's only been one unanimous vote, and that was Steph Curry's second MVP, which to me was absolutely ludicrous. I don't believe that. Like,
I don't believe he should have got a unanimous one. I believe that was the year he should have won the MVP, not the first year.
I don't believe in unanimous votes ever. There is always a case to be made for somebody else where one person should be making that case. There was never one season where you can just be like, without a doubt, it's Steph Curry. Like, I don't believe that. Somebody in that room should have been fighting for LeBron, Kevin Durant, like somebody else, because somebody else had an MVP caliber season.
Yeah.
To have it unanimously one player, I don't believe in that.
To be fair, though, like that was the season that eliminated the mid-range jump shot. Yeah.
Just took out a whole aspect of the game. I have to agree, because that was the year that he hit, 800 or like the fastest to 1,000 3-pointers.
And this is also the year that he was hitting half-court shots just because he could.
I get it.
And like
the year before Kevin Durant came in, they still won the title that year. No, that was the year that they went. They
73.
lost. Yeah. And they lost in the finals 3-1. So, yeah, no, garbage. I don't like unanimous. Unanimous votes are not a thing that should be happening.
So
I don't think.
And the other thing too is like, with the elimination of the mid-range jumper, that was like Michael Jordan's go-to move. Like that was his
Kobe
game,
Bryant.
And it doesn't even exist anymore. Like hardly. You have 2 guys that do it right now. You have LaMarcus Aldridge and you have DeMar DeRozan.
That's about it. And well, yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge purely because of necessity, because he's sort of like the new Dirk. But no, it is true. It's a whole new game that has been taken out. You see James Harden putting out from mid-ranges a little bit more nowadays as well, because he can see the value behind it. But I think it's something that should come back into the game of basketball just to keep people honest. But Going back to the Raptors a little bit here, I want to talk about that the Cleveland sandwich that they are calling it here. Game at Boston, we went to Cleveland and then a back-to-back with Boston yet again. This was what everyone was saying was playoffs in a nutshell. But going forward here with that, it's playoffs in a nutshell with the first game in Boston coming up with a resounding loss. Did not like the showing that the Raptors had in that game. Did not look strong at any point of that game. And it was just an eye-opening event with a banged-up Celtics organization beating the Raptors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been really supportive of the Raptors recently as of late. I felt like this is the best opportunity they have to make it to the finals. But yeah, they're not playing well. I'm really disappointed, and honestly, it makes me nervous about them.
A little bit, especially with the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and just the underperforming against the top tier teams in the East. Going out of that 3 games, we went out 1-2, losing the 2 games on the road, which was, I don't want to say expected. You're never expecting the Raptors to lose, especially with the season that they're having right now.
They're winnable games. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
They should be winning.
But it's somewhat expected with it being on the road to these top tier teams, which historically the Raptors have had a terrible time playing in Cleveland when LeBron James has been there. So I don't want to say that's expected, but it was somewhat expected with a playoff pushing Cavaliers team in Cleveland to run the Raptors out of the gym. We didn't get run out of the gym, which is really nice. We were losing pretty substantially in the game, made it a little bit more competitive at the end, bringing that 16-point deficit down to 6 or to 4, which is good to see, to show that we have fight. But in a game of runs, the Cavaliers had the more runs. Mm-hmm. Especially in the playoffs when it's a run-heavy game play, it's not good that our defense took such a backseat to the Cavaliers and to the Celtics in those 3 games.
And not even just the defense, but our offense was kind of missing too.
Yeah, 3-point shooting especially.
I think DeRozan was shooting bad. Lowry was shooting bad. Van Vliet couldn't hit shots. Yep. I think like the only person that put up nice numbers for me was like Ibaka or something.
Yeah, Ibaka. That was what it was. It was the coming out, the re-showing of Ibaka coming out to play, so which was nice. But it was also really bad because it looked like CJ was forcing it. It looked like the team was really trying to get CJ Miles' shot ready for going into playoffs, where they were just trying to force him shots, trying to force him looks. Just wasn't working out for him. Hopefully they can figure out a way to get him more organically finding shots in the game. I think that's going to be a benefit for playoffs, especially for the Raptors, especially against the top tier teams where they've had trouble in the last forever, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So with the last 7 games, I know that we were looking for them to pull out at least 5 out of the 7. It is still very doable. We lost the first 2. Still, we won the last game against Boston, which was a good showing from start to finish. With a banged up team there as well, which was a good confidence booster going into the last stretch of these 4 games. But the game with the Pacers, Magic, Pistons, and Heat, we have to win 3 out of the 4. Preferably 4 out of 4, just to get our confidence going up higher, going into playoffs. Can't really hold our breath, though, because it's going to be a very tough game, especially with the Heat and the Pacers, actually, with Victor.
Yeah.
But changing gears here a little bit here, some more devastating news happened in the NBA world with injuries coming out to Kyrie Irving. A little bit of an update on his injury, where it has been diagnosed that he has to go in for another surgery on that knee, which is going to put him out indefinitely, missing the regular season and these whole playoff series, even if the Celtics go to the finals. To me, that is unbelievable. I know that around the league it's pretty unbelievable, but directly with the Boston Celtics, with the way that they're playing, is this going to hurt them as much as what it might have earlier in the season?
Honestly, I don't think they were going to make it to the finals anyways. But I think even with Kyrie. But I think this is a great opportunity for those young guys to really prove themselves in the playoffs.
This is Tatum and Rozier's legitimate coming out party.
Next year, we're going to see a full force
Hopefully.
Boston Celtics team. Hopefully. And there's also rumors that they might try to get a third person in there. Kawhi Leonard.
Oh my! Can we have 1 week without talking about Kawhi Leonard's injured?
You gotta talk about him.
He is
He's
so
the ultimate troll.
He is the ultimate NBA meme this season.
So, I mean, the thing about Kyrie is, like, this is the same injury that he threatened the Cavaliers with, saying that if you don't trade me, I'm going to opt for knee surgery and be out the entire season. And now, the funny part is that he has to do it anyways.
Yep.
Right?
And this is a much better situation than what he had with the Cavaliers because he was the front runner and their team was very good seed.
I saw a funny meme. I sent it to you. It's like Kyrie Irving's like, "Oh, the plan has worked. Like you're gonna make it to the finals."
A clean path to the finals for you, LeBron. With that, I don't believe Kyrie, with the competitive nature that he had, like I don't believe he opted into the surgery. I think the medical team said, "Kyrie, you're getting the surgery. Like, I'm sorry, sir. Like, it's over."
I think it was bothering him enough that he knew that he probably had to do it too.
It was better for your long term than not.
And the other thing too is like we talked about this last week, but we had technical difficulties and our podcast didn't record. But the other guy that was involved with the Kyrie Irving trade, Isaiah Thomas, also having a season-ending surgery on his hip. So it's like, man, the Cavs got really lucky.
Twice, with two point guards, superstar, all-star point guards, trading them before these season-ending injuries. I think this is LeBron mentality. I think he could smell it and just could sense the weakness and just ships it off.
And the thing is, like, we talked about this last week, but had Kyrie did have the surgery, the team would have been it would have looked very different.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
From the beginning. Like, they may have not been able to acquire anybody if Kyrie was hurt or he decided to get surgery. The other thing, too, is Isaiah Thomas opted not to get surgery or try to rehab it. And if he ended up trying to get surgery instead, the Cavaliers could have looked very different with Kyrie possibly being traded somewhere else. Yeah. So it's a very interesting situation and how it worked out for the Cavaliers.
Yes.
I don't know if it hurt them or if it made it worse, but
I think at the beginning it hurt them when they did the initial deal here now. But then looking hindsight, they're probably going, I would do that deal again. Because realistically, that deal brought them to where they are now. It took them into a dark path with the Shumpert, Dwayne Wade, Channing Frye, that little experiment, Jay Crowder, that experiment. It took them to the dark times. But then when they finally saw what they could do with that cap space, those talent, and bringing into the youth movement with Larry Nance, Rodney Hood, Jordan Bell, Jordan Clarkson, it's benefited them. So that time, initially the trade didn't benefit them. In the long run, what they did with the trade at the end of it, very much benefited them. So I think if they had the chance to do that trade again, they definitely would do it yet again.
But let's not forget the trade that could have happened that never happened, and that was for Paul George and Kemba Walker.
Oh. That was never going to happen anyways. With Paul George and Kyrie and LeBron on the same squad, I don't see that happening.
Man,
but why not? It would have been nice to see, but no, not at all. But with Kyrie injury coming now, so close to playoffs, I don't want to say that this is going to hurt the Celtics. Of course, it's not going to make them advantage. It's not going to make them more competitive with knowing Kyrie's not coming back. I think it's going to make a story that they can rally behind. Knowing that now it is more of the young guns leading the charge.
Right.
They can be looking at each other and going, guys, they're counting us out. They're already giving us out. We are still the second seed. Kyrie, out of 82 games, he's played what? Maybe 60? Probably not 60. Definitely almost not 60 games. So it's like Gordon Hayward played 15 minutes. Not even. 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
He's played 6 minutes. Kyrie has missed at least 20 to 25 games. Al Horford's missed time. We've had other people. Marcus Smart's missed minutes here and there. They had Greg Monroe, got him into the fold. And they are still the second place team in the East. They do deserve some credit for that, even with Kyrie not being there. So it's the fact that they're getting not talked about like the Raptors aren't getting talked about, but they should be able to take that disrespect and fuel it for them to try and make a push in the playoffs. Like, I do agree with you. I never thought they were going to win the championship this year. I still don't think they're going to win the championship this year. Why can't they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals still?
Yeah,
it's possible.
I agree. I think they could make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but winning a championship is another story.
Yeah, that is very true. But like, even getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, they have to beat a great team, either the Cavaliers, the Raptors, or the 76ers, which are all very, very good teams. Not disrespecting all the other people that are a little bit lower, like the Wizards and stuff like that. You would have to go through one of the top tier teams, which have been the Raptors, Cavaliers, and the Celtics this year. I don't know. It's gonna be something good to see. I prayers out to Kyrie Irving. We never wish injuries on All Stars, especially Eastern Conference All Stars. How weak the conference is. We need all our guns to be good. But we can move on to another, hopefully not last injury that happened to another Hall of Fame player in Dirk Nowitzki. But he has opted to go through season-ending ankle surgery this year.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the last that we have seen of the great Dirk Nowitzki?
So instead of just a season ending, it's a career-ending ankle injury.
That is unfortunate that we are going to be having to talk about this but realistically, with those handful of players, I should say those two players, Dirk and Vince Carter. An injury like this could very well be career-ending. Do you think this is a career-ending injury for Dirk Nowitzki?
Man, I honestly, I hope it is. Not because I want him to see him injured, but like I really don't want to watch him play anymore. Like he looks like he's playing in pain all the time.
I do agree with him. It does look like he's laboring up and down the court, even in the early minutes of games.
I cringe every time I see him take a jump shot.
Or come down with a hard rebound or going in the post. I understand that. I hopefully hope this was not the last that we saw of Dirk Nowitzki. I hope he does come back from this injury at least next year, put out a farewell tour, and just like and go out with these young guns, because Dallas has a very young nucleus of a team. Even with Dirk being there next year or not there next year, I still don't think they're a playoff bound team. So I think one more year farewell tour with Dirk Nowitzki, giving his knowledge out to the organization about where they want to go to get another title that he has brought to Dallas, would only benefit Dennis Smith Jr., benefit Harrison Barnes in his leadership role, get another sneaky draft pick, help Dwight Powell, get a little bit more finesse in the post and learn that turnaround jumper that Dirk has. So I hope this isn't the end of Dirk coming back. Maybe not even doing a starting role like he's been doing right now, but do something like what Vince Carter's been doing, or what Tracy McGrady did at the end of his career when he came to the Spurs, played off the bench and was more of a leadership, a locker room kind of guy. I can see that coming out with Dirk. I hope that Dirk can come back and just splash a couple more threes down, really cement that Hall of Fame career that he has. I hope this isn't the end of the big German.
Well, just to put it in perspective as well too, Vince Carter just turned 41 this year, and Dirk Nowitzki is turning 40 this year.
Jeez.
But like if you compare the two, like Vince Carter looks relatively healthy compared to Dirk.
Well, because he's a different athletic being. Because like he's not human. That's why he is half man, half amazing. Like he is not humanly made. So that's why I don't.
But it's surprising considering like how much abuse Vince Carter's knees have taken compared to Dirk's.
But then again, Dirk's 7 feet. So just being 7 feet gives you a beating regularly.
I guess so. That's true.
So I do understand where you're coming from. I hope it's not the end of Dirk. I hope he can come back in some sort of capacity.
The worst thing is, like, I know you want to see him back, but like for me, the only reason I think it's kind of an okay idea is because like right now they're still struggling. They're still trying to rebuild. And if they bring him back, maybe they can like bank some more lottery picks or something like that.
Yep.
But otherwise, like right now, with him being on the roster, taking a decent size of the salary, like that nobody's gonna want to go to Dallas. Like it's already hard to get people to Dallas in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I do agree with that as well. like we were saying before we were on the air here, I think Dirk Nowitzki has earned the right to take up the majority of the payroll for the next 15 years of Dallas. Because without Dirk, they would have not been nearly the franchise that they are right now.
I don't mind him being signed as like a shooting coach or like a coach or anything, something, right? Give him some sort of administrative position, but like I don't know, they can use a bench spot for somebody else. And Dwight Powell is not the guy. Like, let's be real. Let's be real.
I think not giving love to our Canadian boy.
I think friggin' Kwame Brown has had more minutes than Dwight Powell.
Wow. Only podcast where Kwame Brown's name is still being thrown around. I can't agree with you on that. I don't like Dwight Powell. I don't think he's going to be the man. I think he's a serviceable big. Like he's Tristan Thompson. What?
I think Tristan Thompson is way better than Dwight Powell.
Really, way better?
Or at least was way better.
Okay, was is a big word though.
But like, how long has Dwight Powell have been in the league?
Not more than 5 to 6 years. Not more than 5 to 6 years.
I feel like he's younger than Tristan. So slow.
Okay.
And is he really younger than Tristan?
I think he's younger than Tristan Thompson.
I'm really surprised.
I would say he's younger than Tristan Thompson. But then he is developing slow. But I don't think it's the fact that he's developing slow. I think it's the organization and the exposure he has in Dallas is just developing him slowly. Tristan Thompson, the reason why you think he's developing a little bit faster is because he's been thrown in the fire a lot more. It's not the fact that you are correct. He is developing faster, but he was in a sink or swim situation.
Right.
Playing with LeBron James, if you didn't develop, you were not going to play. Ask Anthony Bennett. Like, he didn't get to develop. He didn't get a chance to develop because what the Cleveland Cavaliers needed when they brought him number one, they didn't have time for him to rebuild. So it was either get us there now or you're going out the door. Happened. He went out the door. So it's Tristan Thompson rose to the situation. Dwight Powell has had more time to make mistakes, which is good. Someone like Andrew Wiggins. Like Andrew Wiggins had a chance to grow in Minnesota. He was able to make those kind of mistakes. That if Tristan Thompson made those kind of mistakes, he would have been shipped off because they weren't in a rebuilding stage when he was in Cleveland.
True, I'll give you that much. Yeah.
I like to see Dirk back. I like to see Dallas. I think they have a very good youthful core. One more tutelage year with Dirk Nowitzki and Rick Carlisle would only benefit them. It's going to be nice to see, especially with Jason Kidd going to the Hall of Fame. I know most of his golden years were with New Jersey Nets, but he has had that Dallas his Dallas stint there, and I think his only title came with that Dallas team in 09.
Yeah.
So he is going to be a Dallas Maverick, is what he's going to be like known as. So he might come back and start. He needs a job. Why can't he come back and start helping out with the Mavericks?
Speaking of which, I just read something today, and the reason why he got fired was apparently he was putting a lot of blame on the players. He was expecting way too much out of the players, and there was some other reason, but yeah, like apparently he
wasn't taking ownership of the team he was leading.
Maybe, and he's just like putting a lot of pressure on the players,
and that's a quick way to lose your locker room if you are, because the golden rule as a coach, when your team's losing, it's you. When your team's winning, it's the guys.
You're the captain of the ship. You go down with the ship.
Exactly, and then when the ship is prospering, you don't say it's me. It's the guys that got us there. So hearing that it could have been that he's throwing the guys under the bus, that's a quick way to lose a locker room, to lose the respect of the guys, and case in point, gets shipped out nice and early before playoffs. But going on to the last thing, we did mention his name a little bit here in the podcast. Vince Carter. Vince Carter did I don't want to say a boneheaded move, but an unnecessary contact with Patrick McCaw of the Golden State Warriors. I know we were looking at the video here a little bit before we went on air. What was your make of that video and what Vince Carter was doing?
Okay, so I think I'm gonna have a very unpopular opinion of what happened. I think it's the same thing that you initially thought, where there wasn't that much contact. Mm-hmm. But actually, just looking at the videos and stuff and the pictures afterwards, or before this podcast, I did see that like McCaw's leg was up on Vince Carter's shoulder. Originally, I thought it was just like a slight tap on his legs or whatever like that. It looked like he was already out of position and it wasn't gonna have a good landing, anyways. Um, but I don't know, man. Like Vince Carter immediately felt remorse.
Yes,
He knows as a
visibly see
dunker.
that.
He knows as a dunker you never get under somebody.
No.
But I don't know. You feel bad for McCaw, but seems like he's gonna come back okay.
Yeah, it seems like his injuries thankfully weren't very substantial. He was released from hospital, I think, later that night. So that was a good thing.
I think it took like a day or two, but no structural damage,
which is good. Yeah. What I took away from that, especially immediately after the clip that we were looking at, it did a quick shoot over to Steve Kerr, and he was visibly upset. Not about the situation, more about Vince Carter, and knowing that Vince Carter, being a 20-plus year vet in this league, who is a dunker, who does this on a daily basis,
he should know more than anybody else.
Than you weren't going to stop that kind of dunk.
You weren't going for a block.
What you were doing was super unnecessary. I don't think what Vince did was as bad as what we have seen in past instances of basketball. I like to throw it back to that one game in college basketball. I don't know if you saw that clip or not. With this NCAA Division II, something low level, two-handed shoved a guy in a clear breakaway dunk right into the back wall. Like,
yeah.
It was absolutely disgusting. That was
this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't even that long ago. A couple months ago. It was absolutely, as a basketball player, you can't even fathom that. I don't think Vince Carter's was that bad. It was unnecessary. It was definitely a flagrant foul. Ejection, I don't think so.
I'm gonna give him a benefit of a doubt.
Yeah,
he's too old to move out of the way. He couldn't react.
Got caught ball watching and reliving his glory days. I remember when I used to do that. But I don't really fault Vince Carter in that situation. He could have stepped out of the way. He should have stepped out of the way.
Yeah.
But with that, basketball plays like that happen. There was no malice into it. Immediately, you can visibly see how distraught Vince Carter was and how sorry he was that he did this. McCaw's young. I think he could bounce back. He's in a good situation with the Warriors. The Warriors are in a good situation without him, to be totally frank. It could have been a lot messier. We can leave it at that. It could have been a lot messier.
Yeah, the biggest concern is like that could have potentially been career ending.
Yes.
And thankfully it's not.
No. Agreed. On to lighter news, on to happy news, a potential return of an NBA All-Star. We don't really talk about that too much. We always talk about how All-Stars are going down in injuries here, but it's looking good that Jimmy Butler is looking to return to the Timberwolves before the regular season's over.
Possibly tonight. This episode might have already... Yeah. Like, the game might have already played by the time...
by the time we edited this and put it on there, Jimmy might have already made his return.
Yeah. I think it's a great time for him because he gets a couple of games under his legs to get him back up to speed. Yeah. He's coming back from a torn meniscus, so...
It's a new knee.
Yeah.
So it's only good. It's going to be good to get 3 to 4 games under his belt before going into playoffs, seeing what he can really do on that knee, what limitations he may have.
And hopefully it's not too soon. He did say that he's not going to play if he doesn't feel 100% anyways. So, hopefully we do see him back out on the floor. I think Timberwolves are looking pretty damn good right now as well, too. So, where are they? They're 7th right now.
Yeah, currently sitting in 7th in the West. Only, they are half a game from 4th. A full game from 3rd. So it's like...
Right. And if they don't win games, they could easily be knocked out of the playoff picture.
It's very close. With the Western Coast, the West Conference, it is very big that Jimmy Butler's coming back here with the last push. Because this is all about positioning. Right now, from 3rd seed all the way down to the 10th seed, there is 6 games splitting those 7 teams.
Yeah.
With only 3 games remaining, of course, the 10th seed's not going to make it all the way to 3rd. But between 3 to 6, it's 3 games, which is the last bit of games here. And from 7 to 10, it's 2 games.
Yeah.
It's just 3 games remaining. It's huge splits between those 2 groups of teams. With the Timberwolves currently sitting 7th with 19 games behind the leader, a game behind the Jazz at fourth. It's very easy that they can make a push, get a very good seed in fourth, going home court advantage even. Home court advantage is still on the table for the first round for the Timberwolves. Only going to be beneficial with Jimmy Butler coming back to help them get that.
Yeah, man. Kawhi Leonard, take some notes.
Yes.
Speaking of which, the Spurs, for the first time in how long?
I think they said since the 96 to 97 season that this is the first time that they haven't won 50 games.
That is ridiculous, man. Like the Spurs are...
I don't want to say it's nice to see because I know in my whole sport lifetime, the Spurs have been the franchise of excellence across all major sporting events. It's nice to see how system and like how much of a cycle that sports is. It gives the lesser teams hope that their team is just in the rebuild cycle and they can get to the excellence part that the Spurs once had. Knowing that the Spurs went to excellence and now they're sort of sliding down in the rankings in the excellence one, it gives hope to the teams like the 76ers who haven't been excellent since the Iverson that our time could come back. The Timberwolves who haven't been excellent since Kevin Garnett, and they still weren't even that excellent when they had Kevin Garnett that all those years ago. But like the Jazz could be relevant again that they haven't been since Karl Malone and John Stockton. The Wizards or even the Bulls who can be relevant again. Like it's all system and it's all a cycle. The Raptors 20-something years ago were never going to be... It was unfathomable that they can win the Eastern Conference. Like, it was never even thought about. But now the cycle is coming up, showing that it's our time. Now some of the bigger teams are falling down a little bit, but all the little teams, you guys have hope. Keep drafting good. Keep making the good deals. Find one generational player that you can put your love behind, and your team can make a change.
So, one thing that happened recently, Carlos Boozer and Nate Robinson, they're starting out their own podcast as well. Got some more competition.
Always love it.
But on Nate Robinson's, on their podcast, Nate Robinson mentioned that with the Spurs, one of the things there is actually nobody wants to go play on the Spurs. I don't think anybody's ever really said that before. This is the first time a player has actually come out and said, like, look, to be honest, nobody wants to go to the Spurs.
To be honest, I think it just confirms my point that I made here a moment ago. It's because of the cycle. They know that teams only like to go to free agent markets when they are not in a rebuild, when they just need one or two pieces. With everyone outside looking into the Spurs, they're going through a rebuild. It's like unfortunate how much you don't want to say it. They're going through a rebuild with them losing Tim.
But he means like even during the Tim Duncan and the their championship run phase, like people just don't want to go to San Antonio, and apparently it's just because I guess it's really boring there, small market place.
Yeah, San Antonio.
But and that's why they try to build their teams, through drafts and try to keep these loyal people. So I think what they're trying to get at was that they thought that Kawhi, being the quiet guy that he is, was going to be the next guy that was going to be like, he's going to be humble and like want to
work every day.
Go to work, not complain, not talk too much, and play for a city that loves him, right? And maybe he's not that guy.
From what it's looking like, especially in the last 2.5 months, he doesn't look like he's a Spurs kind of guy. A Spurs kind of guy is a blue collar, Tim Duncan. It doesn't matter if I have a broken finger, I'm still going to come and play for you, Pop. We're going to get our 60 wins. Tony Parker with his eye injury, he's coming to play. Manu Ginobili being 40 goddamn years old, coming to play hard every day. It doesn't look like Kawhi Leonard. Always mix his name up with Kyrie. It's super weird. Kawhi Leonard, it doesn't look like that prototypical Spurs kind of guy. It even goes down the bench without their superstars. The Corey Josephs, the Patty Mills. Like, those very blue-collar guys that go to work every day, come back and win 60 games clockwork. It doesn't look like Kawhi is that kind of a player. So he does need a system because he is a very good defensive system player, a very good offensive system player. When he gets his touches, they will go in. He needs a guy like Pop, but it doesn't look like their two off-court chemistry will match up.
So if you're the Spurs, do you just abandon the Kawhi ship
Yes.
and jump on the LaMarcus Aldridge trip.
Yes.
Ship?
I would have jumped on the L train months ago.
But is he the guy that you really want to build your franchise around?
No, not for the long term. For the immediate 3 to 5 year window, you can build around LaMarcus Aldridge. He still has basketball to give. Are we looking for 10-year window? No. Maybe not. But it would be good enough to get a couple more pieces around LaMarcus Aldridge who are... So first things first, you can try and trade off Kawhi Leonard, if it's possible. I know it's a free agency. See if you can do a sign and trade to get a couple pieces around LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he won't win you a title in the next 3 to 5 years, but he can contend for a title in the next 3 to 5 years. You get him a nice defensive presence, another offensive scorer, and a point guard. And then you have a nice little team. Because you have Ginobili who's coming off the bench who is surprisingly still giving you good basketball. And it has been quoted that Ginobili wants to play well into his 40s, he said. Have Ginobili still coming off the bench, get a nice point guard, who their new young rookie that they have that replaced Tony Parker is looking pretty good. If you bring in a nice wing defender that Kawhi was supposed to be, another wing scorer like Kawhi was supposed to be.
Jonathan Simmons.
Sure. Yes, Jonathan Simmons is actually a good little prospect as well. You can trade off Kawhi's contract, get a draft pick, and get a prospect player. 2 wing guys. You already have your interior presence with Paul and LaMarcus. You have your outside with I'm forgetting his name. I want to say Malcolm, but I don't remember his name. The point guard in San Antonio right now. You have your bench with Tony and Ginobili, who can maybe give you 1 to 2 more years as well. LaMarcus can be your superstar, get some value with Kawhi's contract. You got yourself another team that can make a run for the next 2 to 3 years. Win it? Probably not, because you have no 3-point threat, which is what the game is going towards. If you look at Golden State, Houston, and Toronto when they have it going.
Another guy they can look at, somebody who is not happy with being the third option on their team. Andrew Wiggins.
I was going to say Andrew Wiggins. Paul George? Like, why can't Paul George go over to San Antonio and work with LaMarcus?
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it either, but why? Why not?
I don't know. It's because nobody wants to go to San Antonio. Coming from LA?
True.
Like, Andrew Wiggins is already used to playing in a small market city. And he gets to be the first option if he goes there, in my opinion.
If Kawhi leaves, and no, he'd still be behind LaMarcus. But it would be like the olden days with the old Timberwolves with Wiggins and Cat.
Right.
It would go back to Wiggins and LaMarcus.
Right.
Which would be cool.
Yeah.
Which would be something to think about. Why not? We can always think about. Or we can always think about one of the other... There have been a lot of dynamic duo teams in the league. Who's not to say that, especially with the experiment that the Wizards just had with John Wall being injured, Bradley Beal has finally been leading a team. Why not him start smelling himself like Kyrie started smelling himself and saying, I don't want to be a secondary fiddle. Let me go and run my own team like I'm doing in Boston
Especially
now.
with all the drama, too.
Exactly.
In Washington.
With the Beal Wall little tiffs that they've been having. Why can't Bradley Beal go and make his own name? Why can't CJ McCollum go and make his own name somewhere else as well? San Antonio's a good team to be starting with.
I think
excellence.
I think CJ McCollum is probably...
It
doesn't seem
happening.
like he's going to leave. I think they have a pretty good relationship there.
Less than the Wizards, but...
Yeah. But
who thought Kyrie was going to leave Cleveland last year? I honestly did not think that was going to happen until the rumors started happening. And I was like, you're trading Kyrie? Why? And then something happened. It came out that Kyrie and LeBron were getting a little bit rough. So it could happen with the other teams. Why not?
Yeah, it's possible.
Especially with a tough playoff loss. That's when fingers start getting pointed.
That's true. That's true.
And with both the Wizards and the Blazers going to playoffs, one player not showing up in that key moment. Where were you, bro? I'm gonna go do my own thing. I'm not gonna count on you no more. Hey, weirder things have happened. That's for sure. But going back to to wrap up the show here, guys. With the playoffs, with the way they're looking, it's looking to be a great playoff series coming up. I think it's gonna be a great playoff run for both conferences, East and West.
Yeah.
A lot of good close matchups, a lot of potential upsets. Like with these, I don't want to say these little teams, but they're like the weaker teams. they have had glimpses of when they've taken off top tier teams in the league. Like the Sixers have knocked off a couple big names. Same with the T-Wolves or even the Thunder. Like the Thunder are sitting 6th right now.
Let's not forget the Jazz either.
The Jazz are sitting 4th. Like that. I don't
Ricky
even know.
Rubio is having a great season.
I don't even know how to comprehend what's going over in Utah. Is it fact or fiction, or is it hype?
Like nothing makes sense there.
Nothing.
Like
Millsap's looking
they're just
sweet.
quietly winning games and like
Quietly winning games behind Donovan Mitchell, who we haven't talked about in a long time. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's cool to see. It's good to see that a lot of these young rookies are leading teams. Like in the 76ers, same with the Jazz. Like it's good to see. I like it.
yeah, very interesting year. It's been a fun year.
Celtics. Yeah, it's a lot of rookie star power. Any hot takes you want to take off? If there's one upset coming in the playoffs where a lower seed's going to take away home court advantage from a home court team, who would you think? We can even go east or west.
Man, that's tough, man.
Because where I'm sitting here right now,
If we have 7-2 Warriors and Thunder as of right now, I think the T-Wolves can beat the Warriors in a 7-game, like in the first round
with
no Curry.
I was gonna say with Curry missing a couple games, Clay coming out with a banged up injury as well.
Yeah,
yeah. Hey, why not? I like the Wizards over the Celtics. If Kyrie's injury, since he's not coming back, like the Celtics can really go two ways. They can use that as fuel, or they can use that as a damper. Of like, oh, we lost our superstar. It's over, guys. Let's just pack it up.
I don't think they're the type of team that will.
I don't see it either. But like, I can see the Wizards smelling the weakness and going, "They lost Kyrie now, guys. We got John Wall back. Let's get them." Like, and that would be my hot take. Like the Wizards, I can see the Wizards snaking off a nice first round away on losing without home court, snaking home court advantage really quick. One game, that's all you really need. So it's gonna be a great playoffs. I can't wait for these 4 games, these meaningless regular season games to end. Get into the good stuff. Get the playoff push going. It's gonna be nice to watch.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you guys for listening up. One more shout out to that Google Play gift card drive that we're going to. I know that most people might not hear it at the beginning. Let's really try and get that Google Play gift cards out the door here, guys. Get a couple more subscriptions. We'll be really happy about that.
Yeah, so again, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment below, and share this with your friends as well, too.
Definitely. And you guys always know, if you guys made it through the whole podcast,
you guys the real MVP.
Peace.
Peace.